He's angry about mortgages. It's Angry Mortgage. He's swearing. He's cursing loud. He's old. He's opinionated. And he's been doing this so damn long. This program is about mortgages, and this is mortgage advice, but the advice may not apply to your situation. Contact licensed mortgage professionals for specific recommendations before you make decisions about mortgages. You may not agree with Ron, but if you don't, he thinks you're wrong. Oh, and did we say there is a lot of swearing?
So the next really, really interesting subject that we got to tackle, and by the way, that's a story that we're going to stick with us for our lives, that Fortress story, like gross fraud, ignored by regulator, completely victim. And one last thing to everybody who's listening and watching. These people harmed investors in incredible ways. The most poignant story, and there's many of them, there's hundreds and hundreds of them, life savings of elderly people. A couple who the husband had been so seriously injured in a workplace accident that he would never walk again. Yep. He was in a wheelchair for life. He took a large settlement from the WSIB, at the time WSIB, they have a new name now, WSB. Anyway, big settlement, $1 million. At the time, all years ago, that was a lot of money. And he was conned by, and he didn't really speak English, and he was conned by a person working, it's investment advisor working within that language group to put every goddamn cent into Fortress.
Awesome.
Lost every penny.
Yeah. The Globe Mail included their story in one of the Globe Mail's done some good work. They had a couple of excellent expose, and I know the couple you're talking about, and they were included in one of those. It's heartbreaking. It's so frustrating. You feel powerless when the regulators are asleep at the wheel, but
you do. Anyway, next important topic, which is something that you have been leading the way on too in your analysis, often missed by other people doing the analysis, and also a confusing subject because you get totally contradictory information put out into the world, which is, where is Canada's population actually going? So you're one of the first people to point out the total fucking insanity of the students, of the poor foreign students.
Speaking of fraud, Ron.
Wow, I mean, and none of those college owners will ever go to jail. Again, white-collar crime, totally lying to recruiting foreign students to come here.
Yep.
And working the loophole, this is the loophole, folks, that if a school signs someone up to come to a course, the province rubber stamps it instantly, no look, no care, and then the federal government is forced by the rules to issue that visa.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, to Ben's point, and he was the first bird dog on this, how the fuck did we go from 173,000 students one year to 830,000 students the next year? How the fuck is that even possible? Yeah. And none of them are, only the original 173,000 are going to university. That was a normal intake by like real universities teaching proper courses that would actually turn a lot of those students into marvelous members of Canada.
Totally.
Engineers, accountants, I mean, on and on.
Bright minds,
Doctors, okay? Like, seriously, all good stuff. And 600,000 two-year travel consultant degrees at fucking community colleges. Okay, you were one of the very, very first on it.
Man, I was banging the drum on this so hard. In fact, I was warning about this at a time where, remember, kind of the politics were such that it was considered very impolite to question anything around immigration.
You're racist. Yeah, you're racist.
And I remember I testified in front of the Standing Committee of Finance twice over this issue. And, the fraud around the international student component is significant, but the other big component, because we're talking now about a cohort that's broadly referred to as non-permanent residents. So they're here on a temporary basis.
So it's temp student, temp workers.
Those are the big two ones.
Temp workers.
Yeah. The third group is asylum claimants that's rolled in there as well. But let's set that cohort aside because there's now fraud in that component too. But if you look at, we know the fraud around the students. Right, they were recruited
by agents overseas.
Who were in many cases made false promises around their prospects to get PR.
And those foreign agents got paid. We're not sure by who, but they got paid by somebody. Okay,
You had these quote unquote business colleges pop up above burger joints and strip malls. I mean, all this, as you would say, Ron, all this fuckery.
Total fuckery.
But secondarily, you've got this temporary worker cohort, and there's a lot of fraud there too. So for example, in order to bring in a temporary worker, a business has to prove that there's a need that they have that they could not meet within the local labor market.
No Canadian can do this.
Right. So, and that's called a labor market impact assessment.
Yep.
So it's a form you fill out, you submit to the government, almost 100% approval rating. They just take you at your word. But here's where it gets interesting. If you come to Canada under one of these labor market impact assessments as a temporary worker, when you later go to apply for your permanent residency, that is, it gets you considerable points towards that PR. So the way we allocate permanent residency in Canada is
a point system.
It's a point system. Yep. And so if you come here under a labor market impact assessment, it's a lot of points. So now all of a sudden, all these employers go, oh, wait, this is a valuable thing for people who want PR. We can sell that. So now if you are a worker coming to Canada, the employer will say, well, I'll let you work for me, but you got to pay me $25,000. So now, not only are you getting free,
fraud.
It's
pure
fraud. Fucking fraud, man. And not only are you then getting free labor, you're getting paid. And so this has now come out publicly. There's been a number of exposés on this.
Again, the crooked recruiters overseas.
Man, this is where it gets tricky. I don't know at what point you start. Like at some point, you need to hold people accountable. Like I'm
I'm holding the Canadians accountable. But people wonder how do these people?
I think everybody involved.
Yeah,
at some point
there were crooked recruiters overseas.
100%, and the businesses ought to get smacked hard on this. Yeah. But all that to say, Ron, at one point in Canada, we had that cohort growing by 800,000 in a single year.
Jesus Christ.
And now if you think about it, if you come to Canada as a temporary worker or an international student, you're a renter. Right?
For sure.
So another way of saying is we had 800,000. So imagine like 2 London Ontarios dropped into Canada, just renters in a single year. So of course the rental market went apeshit.
If you like the pod, well, don't just sit there. Go to YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and all the other ones and like the pod. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep being angry at mortgages and swearing about mortgages. Angry Mortgage could use your support.